Today is Friday, August 15th. We'll tell you about a high-stakes meeting happening today that much of the world is hoping could lead to peace in Ukraine. Also, the two conditions Texas Democrats are now demanding to end their walkout in a redistricting fight that's been pitting blue states against red states around the country. Plus a strike that could end up grounding hundreds, if not thousands, of flights. Controversial guidelines for how Meta's AI interacts with kids. And why the artist who draws what he calls terrible portraits promises to never improve. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Today is the day President Trump is meeting face-to-face with Russian President Vladimir Putin. They are speaking to each other one-on-one at a military base in Anchorage, Alaska. Trump compared the summit to a chess game, saying he thinks Putin is going to make a deal, but that there's a 25% chance the talks would fail. If it does go well, Trump raised the possibility of inviting Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for more negotiations where they can talk about issues like territory. On the Russian side yesterday, President Putin told some of his top officials the goal is peace, something Ukraine and other countries are skeptical about, especially since attacks are still being carried out. The Russian government says Putin also wants to talk to Trump about issues beyond Ukraine, like trade and nuclear arms. Trump and Putin plan to hold a joint press conference after their meeting where we should hopefully learn more. So remember how we told you about Texas Democrats leaving their state to block Republicans' plan to redraw the state's congressional maps? Well, now the Dems are close to ending that walkout. They announced they'll return on two conditions. One, that Texas Republicans end the special session, which is expected to happen today. And two, that California releases its own redrawn map proposal, which is expected to happen next week. To catch you up, Texas Governor Greg Abbott actually called the special session at the request of President Trump. He wanted the voting map changed, specifically to help the GOP get 5 new seats in the U.S. House in next year's midterm elections. So the Texas Dems took off, leaving the legislature without enough members to vote on the new boundaries. And the special session is set to end today. The thing is, though, Governor Abbott plans to just start another session when the Dems return to still get the redistricting done by the midterms. So Democratic leaders say they also want to make sure whatever seats Dems lose in Texas, they'll gain in California. Governor Gavin Newsom laid out that plan yesterday, calling for a special election to put new maps before California voters. If voters approve, those maps are expected to add 5 Democratic seats to the U.S. House in the 2026 midterms. And there could be even more states getting involved soon. President Trump and his allies are looking into adding seats in other Republican-leading states like Ohio, Florida, Indiana, and Missouri. Democrats are talking about retaliating in states like New York and Illinois. Typically, changes only happen to congressional maps every 10 years after the census reflects population changes. So at least one Republican on Capitol Hill says he wants to stop what he's calling a redistricting war altogether by banning new mid-decade maps all around the country. But even if it passes, that measure is very unlikely to become law. Stay tuned. Florida is planning to open another immigration facility modeled after so-called Alligator Alcatraz. This one is already being called Deportation Depot. The new facility is taking over a building at a state prison about 40 miles west of Jacksonville. It still needs to be set up with things like air conditioning, but the goal is for it to open in 2 to 3 weeks. The Florida National Guard and state contractors will staff the site, and it could grow to hold up to 2,000 immigrants before they're deported. Federal officials are running out of space to put people after ramping up arrests and limiting bail for detained immigrants. And those efforts are expected to keep growing. The Trump administration is tightening its grip on the Washington, D.C. Police Department. For starters, Attorney General Pam Bondi did away with policies that kept local police from helping federal immigration agents with enforcement. Local police officers were also given the power to arrest people solely for being undocumented immigrants, something that was against police department policy for the last couple of years. Plus, the head of the DEA was named the emergency police commissioner of the capital city, meaning even the city's police chief will now have to get his approval before issuing any new directives. It's something the city's attorney general says is not legal, so he's planning to fight it. Also last night, federal authorities started clearing homeless encampments in Washington, D.C., and federal law enforcement officers were out making arrests. The White House says operations in D.C. will run 24 hours a day and target high-crime areas. President Trump also plans to ask for the emergency declaration to be extended so the federal control can continue beyond 30 days. Today, Tropical Storm Erin is on track to become the first hurricane of the Atlantic season. The National Hurricane Center says Erin will likely move just north of the northern Leeward Islands. And the Leeward Islands, Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico are expected to see the effects of it with life-threatening surf and rip currents. Then most meteorologists expect the storm to move away from the U.S. But even if it does avoid landfall, it could end up impacting East Coast beaches by next weekend. By the way, the Hurricane Center is also tracking another system churning in the Gulf. If it becomes more organized, it could become Tropical Storm Fernand and make landfall in either Texas or Mexico. But whether it becomes a named storm or not, it's likely to bring heavy rain to parts of Texas today. More news is still coming up, but first, a quick break to thank our sponsor. I've been a cold brew fan for years, but I used to rely on coffee shops thinking it was just for special mornings. Then I found Trade, and it turns out making cold brew at home is both easy and delicious, something that actually can be part of my every morning. They deliver beans roasted specifically for cold brew from incredible roasters all over the country. Each bag is fresh, and Trade makes it simple. They grind it for you, so all I have to do is scoop into a pitcher, add water, leave it in the fridge overnight, and the next morning, I've got this smooth, rich cold brew that's just as good, if not better, than my favorite coffee shop. Plus, the flexible subscription means I can skip deliveries when I'm away or reschedule when I'm back, so I always have great coffee ready to go. For a limited time, Trade is giving 50% off a month of cold brew. That's around 60 cups of cold brew for 50% off when you go to drinktrade.com/newsworthy. That's drinktrade.com/newsworthy to get 50% off 1 month of cold brew. drinktrade.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. Well, this week, Nike's co-founder made a historic contribution to cancer treatment and research. Phil Knight and his wife donated $2 billion to the Oregon Health and Science University's Knight Cancer Institute. That's the single largest donation ever to an American university, college, or health institution. And it comes at a time when colleges, including OHSU, are losing public funding. The gift will roughly double the size of the cancer center, and with it, patients will get access to a lot more resources. For example, psychological, genetic, and family counseling, symptom management, nutritional support, and more. Plus, part of the donation will go toward clinical trials and basic cancer research. Of course, Knight is no stranger to philanthropy. In fact, it's believed he could be the largest donor in the history of college sports, and his academic causes have far exceeded his donations to athletics. Still, Knight is estimated to be worth about $35 billion. The U.S. Health Department is reinstating a federal task force for safer childhood vaccines. The original panel was disbanded 27 years ago, but many activists have been demanding it return. Now the task force will make recommendations on developing and updating childhood vaccines with fewer and less severe side effects. We'll also support more research on vaccine safety. Some vaccine and medical experts say they worry the task force will undermine trust in vaccines, wrongly imply that safety has not been a concern already, and underestimate the real risk of diseases that vaccines help prevent. But the National Institutes of Health says it's hoping to do the opposite and actually restore trust in vaccines. For now, the task force's membership is limited to officials from agencies like the NIH, CDC, and FDA. Their first report will be sent to Congress within 2 years. 10,000 flight attendants are planning to go on strike this weekend. They all work for Air Canada, so the airline has already started grounding its planes. And if nothing changes before tomorrow morning, all flights directly operated by Air Canada will have to shut down. That could end up grounding 130,000 travelers for every day the strike continues. And since Air Canada has such a large footprint in the industry, with connections all over the world, cancellations could have ripple effects. For example, Air Canada says it will try to accommodate passengers by rebooking them on competitor airlines, so that will eat into the number of available seats on other carriers. Or if flights are already full, Air Canada passengers will get refunds on their tickets. Of course, it's possible flight attendants reach a new contract agreement with Air Canada today that could avoid the strike, but at last check, the two sides were far apart. To be continued. Once again, tech giant Meta is under fire for how kids are using its products. This time, the issue is artificial intelligence. Reuters got a hold of an internal document that apparently shows how Meta's AI chatbots are allowed to flirt and speak to children romantically. The document featured a series of sample prompts followed by acceptable and unacceptable responses. As one example, it can apparently say to a shirtless 8-year-old that, quote, every inch of you is a masterpiece. The document explained that, quote, it's acceptable to engage a child in conversations that are romantic or sensual, but unacceptable to, quote, describe sexual actions to a child when role-playing. There's also part of the document that says chatbots can, quote, demean people on the basis of their protected characteristics. And when it comes to violence, Meta apparently allows AI to generate images of fighting or kids getting beaten up, but it stops short of allowing true gore or death. Meta says the document Reuters reported on was legitimate, but that it included some examples, notes, and annotations that have since been removed. A spokesperson clarified that Meta does allow kids 13 and older to engage with its AI chatbots, even though some examples in the document were younger kids. We actually spoke about kids' interactions with AI companions for this weekend's Special Edition Saturday. That episode comes out in your podcast feed tomorrow morning. It's basically the Olympics for robots. The first ever World Humanoid Robot Games started this morning in China, and hundreds of international teams are competing. Already, we've seen them racing and playing soccer, as well as performing martial arts, gymnastics, and dancing. The show is also expected to showcase arts, culture, and entertainment with musical performances and fashion shows, all from robots. Plus, there are events for real-world scenario challenges, like a hotel cleaning event and a hospital challenge where robots sort medicines and package prescriptions. And those are just a few examples. Overall, organizers say the event is designed to inspire innovation in AI and robotics around the world. The event runs through Sunday. That's it for the main news, but now it's time for Feel Good Friday, when we bring you one extra feel-good or positive news story before the weekend. But first, this episode is sponsored by Honeylove. You know that feeling when you can't wait to get home and change? Yeah, Honeylove has fixed that. Whether it's their super comfy shapewear that never rolls, their tanks that layer perfectly, or their bras that feel good enough to keep on, Honeylove pieces are designed to move with you all day. I've worn them for morning errands, long work days, even special events, and never once felt like I needed a wardrobe change. It's style, function, and comfort all rolled into one. And after washing and wearing them countless times, they still look and feel new. It's that kind of quality that makes me feel like I'm getting something truly worth investing in. Plus, they've got options to fit and flatter so many shapes and sizes. Treat yourself to the most comfortable and innovative bras, shapewear, and tanks on Earth, and save 20% off site-wide at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off, honeylove.com/newsworthy. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Experience the new standard in bras, shapewear, and more with Honeylove. Now back to Feel Good Friday. A Chicago artist is bringing out crowds of people who want to get their hands on one of his portraits, but they don't actually expect them to be any good. Jacob Ryan Reno advertises his services for $5 with a sign that reads, quote, terrible portraits in 5 minutes. Reno says he has no intention of getting better either. In fact, he says he's actually getting worse, but he's doing it because he says he likes meeting strangers, talking to them for 5 minutes while having some fun with art. Since he started, his portraits have gone viral. Reno has been asked to draw at weddings, birthday parties, and other events. He even did portraits for the band Wilco recently during a performance. And while the art is usually unflattering, the reception is overwhelmingly positive. Reno says people are just looking for something fun and approachable that doesn't take itself too seriously. If you want to see some of the portraits for yourself, we've added a link to Reno's Instagram account in today's episode notes. Thank you so much for listening today. We'll be back tomorrow with that special edition Saturday episode about AI companions and kids. Then join us again Monday for your next daily news roundup. For now, have a great weekend.